Okay, so we made this kind of video oh boy, was it a few days after the trade was made? Yeah, the first trade involving this draft pick. We made an update video talking about the Islanders and the Vancouver Canucks and what the Canucks fan base is looking for with this draft pick. But long story short, we have to revisit that, mostly because the trajectory of how the New York Islanders season has changed since we made that past video, and the pick is no longer Vancouver's anymore. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, we are referring to the New York Islanders' first-round pick in 2023. That in which is top 12 protected and currently belongs to the Detroit Red Wings. The Wings acquired this first-round pick in the Filip Hronek trade from the Vancouver Canucks, who acquired this pick from the Bo Horvat trade. Back when we last talked about this pick, we kind of asked the question to Canucks fans, hey, what do you want more out of this draft pick? Do you want the Islanders to suck really bad and be somewhere in the top 12 of the draft so they keep their 2023 first and then moving the pick that's sent over to Vancouver to a 2024 unprotected first? Or would you rather the Islanders kind of just stay in that win-win, loss-loss-loss territory and maybe get the 13th, 14th, or 15th overall pick, thus leading to Vancouver acquiring that selection in this year's draft? We kind of went over all the scenarios, we talked about what was more likely to happen, but this is a little bit different now, because it's no longer Vancouver that owns the pick. The Red Wings are now the team that is mostly concerned about the Islanders and how well they're performing this season, and because of the entire conversation with the Hronek trade in general, I feel like there's a pretty different attitude in Vancouver when it comes to this draft pick and the Islanders as a whole as a result. So that's what I wanted to do here. Just go over the draft pick, go over the standings, go over the Islanders, and go over what each of these fan bases might be looking towards in the next few months. But before we do that, what I also wanted to do was give a little bit of an update. I am going on a trip, so this video here that you're seeing at 12 p.m. PST, Saturday, March 11th, is going to be the only video uploaded on LEGO Rocks 99 today. We will also have only one video uploaded tomorrow on Sunday. Starting Monday, hopefully we'll get back to making 3 a day, because that's kind of the schedule that I put out for myself now. If I'm going on a trip, I don't want to go out there and pre-record a whole bunch of videos because it gets really stressful leading up to my vacation, which really kind of defeats the point. But if it's just one video a day, we can do that. I'm more than capable of keeping up with that sort of pace, and that unfortunately does mean we're not going to be making a post-game video about the Canucks and their post-game. Who the heck are they playing Saturday? Let's go ahead and Google that, because I unfortunately did not do that at the beginning of this video. Canucks are playing the Sens. Okay, so we're not going to make a video about that when that game concludes, but the Sens have kind of been on fire as of late, so who knows how well Vancouver's going to be able to do against them. But you know who else has been doing pretty well as of late? The New York Islanders, which segues perfectly into our conversation about this first-round draft pick. Just in case you needed the refresher, the Red Wings own the New York Islanders' first-round pick in 2023 with top 12 protection. If this pick is somewhere in the top 12, the Islanders have the option of keeping it for themselves and instead sending a 2024 unprotected first to Detroit instead. Last time we talked about what Canucks fans would have expected or would have wanted out of the Islanders in their season, taking into account the caliber of talent that's in this draft, what you might be able to get in the, let's say, 12 to 15 range, and whether or not the 2024 draft is really all that much better. Well, at this point of the season, it kind of doesn't really matter anymore what 2024 has in store, because the Islanders have been on a pretty big heater as of late. Right now, they're 7-2-1 in their last 10 games, they've won 3 in a row, and they're hanging on to the first wildcard spot with a pretty considerable lead over the teams that are not in the wildcard. Currently, the Islanders have 76 points in 67 games played. They are 2 points up on Pittsburgh, who's in that last wild card. And then the teams on the outside looking in, Florida with 72 points, Ottawa with 70 points, and Washington with 69 points. You can see in terms of regular points as well as points percentage, the Islanders are up there and they are doing well. So with this kind of being the status quo, it really does go to show that I think a lot of that speculation that the Islanders had the potential to choke and eventually lose out to the point that the Canucks might have been able to get themselves a top pick moved over to 2024, it's kind of dead in the water now, because the Islanders, they're currently tied with Colorado for 13th in the NHL, which means that if you count from backwards all the way to the top, let's go to Tankathon because that's a lot easier of a way to look at it. The Islanders currently have the 17th overall pick, which is well beyond the realm of being able to keep the pick for themselves. Now, as for the Red Wings, this is pretty good for Stevie Y because, hey, it gives them some more opportunities to get some guys later on in the draft. They already have their own first-round pick this year, which is currently projected to being 11th overall via Tankathon. And if you're able to get a guy at 11 plus a guy at, let's say, 17, maybe 18 or 19, that's a pretty good bet, especially when you're considering the talent in this year's draft. Now, I don't want to go out there and discredit the idea that some Red Wings fans probably do want to see the Islanders lose and lose and lose and lose even more so that that first-round pick eventually does become somewhere in the top 12, leading the Islanders to send an unprotected 2024 first to Detroit instead. But as we had talked about in the last video, this year's draft is considerably stronger, or at least it should be, comparative to 2024, and when you have a team that's run by Lou Lamoriello, it's difficult to really go out there and say that this team is going to be so bad in 2024 that you have yourselves another Ottawa, San Jose, Erik Karlsson trade situation wherein like the third overall pick is the pick that gets moved or something like that. I think it's a lot less likely, especially with this team locking down Bo Horvat. You've got Ilya Sorokin in net, and it's really difficult to go out there and bet against anything that guy does. As long as Matthew Barzal is able to feed Horvat as much as he can, plus the rest of the team being able to fulfill their own duties, I feel like the idea of the Islanders being a bad team in 2024 isn't really too projectable. And thus, it's probably a lot easier to just say, okay, well, just take the pick you have now. Like, you kind of already know where it's going to lie, you know what players you need to be able to scout in order to make the appropriate pick in that range, and Stevie Y and his guys are most likely doing their due diligence. I mean, they got this pick in return for Filip Hronek, which is a pretty big and notable player on the Red Wings and their blue line. And so, heading into this year's draft, it's looking more and more like that first-round pick from the Islanders is going to go over this season because it doesn't look like the Islanders are going to choke and, let's say, make it into the top 12. But at the end of the day, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. What are your opinions about the pick itself? Where do you think the Red Wings should go? What type of player should they get if it is somewhere in the 15, 16, 17-ish range? And before we ended off this video, I wanted to say one more thing to my Canucks faithful out there. This was brought up, I believe it was either on Sakaris and Price or it was on Sportsnet 650 with Drance, and I believe it was... Okay, I don't want to say any names because I feel like I might get it wrong, but it was mentioned somewhere on one of these audio broadcasts talking about the Canucks, asking the question as to whether or not Canucks fans feel better about trading away that first-round pick in the Filip Hronek trade now that the Islanders are doing better. Because the pick is now going to be worse, and the Islanders are instead making the Red Wings' own draft profile for 2023 look all the much worse. And it was an interesting point brought up. Like, I get it. It understandably does make the sting of the Hronek trade a little bit easier to bear when you see, okay, the Islanders are doing really well, so that first-round pick is losing its value. But then again, there still is that signal of direction that the trade symbolizes in and of itself, what the Vancouver Canucks are trying to do, and where they're going with their players and assets. Patrick Allvin not getting draft picks because he just wants to get draft picks, getting draft picks because he wants to use them to draft players or make trades for other players, which kind of contradicts itself. I've said this point like 3 videos in a row. What the hell do you mean by that, Allvin? What else can you do with draft picks other than draft players and get guys? Like, either way, thoughts in the comment section below. I could totally understand if the pick ends up becoming like 21st overall or something. Let's say the Islanders go on a miracle run and win the Stanley Cup and they get like 32nd, or maybe they lose in the finals, 31st overall. Then all of a sudden it becomes easier to say, okay, well, giving away like a 30th overall pick for Filip Hronek is pretty all right. It's just the trade happening in the first place is somewhat of the more stinging part of it all, I guess you could say. I still do think that Hronek is a good player, and he'll fit in with this Vancouver decor. It's just, I don't really know what I'm expecting now from this team when they make trades like these and they're saying that they want to move money and everything because you still got an offseason where you might be able to trade Brock and JT and Garland and maybe even Tyler Myers at this point. But either way, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about the Canucks, the Red Wings, the Islanders, and this first-round pick. Sorry for the lack of videos coming later today as well as tomorrow. I am going on a trip, so I want to spend some time with my folks. But let me know your thoughts either way in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.